Somerset Stars!
We are so excited to read to you today.
We'll be reading chapters 9, 10, 11, and 12. So here we go.
Happy reading. Okay, go ahead and open your books to page 52. We are starting at chapter 9, Open Door, Baby Cakes Policy. Mr. Grayson was a good teacher for lots of reasons. He let kids eat snacks at their desk if they were hungry. He didn't make students ask permission to go to the bathroom. He didn't believe in making people apologize. You can't make someone be sorry, he always said. And he believed in class pets. That's how he put it. I believe in class pets, he had said on the first day of class when he introduced them to Baby Cakes, the class rabbit. Baby Cakes, a white Angora bunny, looked like a giant fluff ball, lived in a pen in the back of the room near the bookshelves. It was a big pen with a gate. If anyone ever needs to cuddle, Mr. Grayson said, Baby Cakes is there for you. And that was the thing that made Mr. Grayson the best teacher Bat had ever had, his open door Baby Cakes policy, which meant that at any time kids needed to cuddle, he or she could go visit Baby Cakes. No permission needed, no questions asked. Baby Cakes liked carrots and apples and put up with cuddling. Bat knew the rabbit liked treats better than kids, but he also knew that Baby Cakes was smart enough to realize that the two often went together. We're on page 54 now. The thing about Mr. Grayson's open door Baby Cakes policy was that none of the kids wanted to ruin it by overusing it. Bat was Baby Cakes' most frequent visitor. Israel visited the second most often, and then probably Jenny was third. A couple months ago, Israel had given Bat a drawing he'd done of Baby Cakes. It was pretty good. Bat usually tried to visit Baby Cakes during recess or lunch, when a visit wouldn't mean leaving the group time. But today, he didn't think he could wait until recess, maybe because he missed the baby skunk so much. When Mr. Grayson had everyone pull out the money game, Payday, that they played on Fridays, Bat slipped away from his table and headed up to the back of the room. Today, Baby Cakes wasn't sleeping. She was just sitting in her favorite spot, on top of the plastic hutch where she slept. She looked like white cotton candy. Can you imagine what Baby Cakes looks and feels like? Bat sat close to Baby Cakes and put his hand on her back just to let her know he was there. He didn't want to startle her. Break into groups of 4, Mr. Grayson said. Choose a banker and pay everyone $200. For a moment, Bat thought maybe Mr. Grayson was going to let him skip the game and just hang out with Baby Cakes. But then he said, Bat, 5 minutes. If you're still following, we're on page 56. Bat didn't want to play Payday. He didn't want to join the class in 5 minutes. But the open door Baby Cakes policy didn't mean it was okay to skip stuff that the class was doing. It was one of those unspoken rules that Mom was always talking about. Those things that people are supposed to know without having to be told. Bat hated unspoken rules, but he loved the open door Baby Cakes policy. So when 5 minutes later was up, Mr. Grayson said, Okay, Bat, time's up. Bat reluctantly scooted Baby Cakes off his lap where he had set her and rejoined the class. The games were all arranged. Jenny Pearson had dealt out $200 for Bat. Luca, Bat saw, had returned from the bathroom with red-rimmed eyes. She was in a different group. Ready? Jenny asked. I guess, said Bat, and he sat in the empty seat between Jenny and Raymond. Across from him, Corey rolled the dice. Bat sighed. It was going to be a long day. And that is the end of chapter 9.
Hi readers, we're about to start chapter 10 on page 58, A Very Long Day. Bat was right, it was a long day. The rain that had been threatening came, and after they ate lunch, the students pulled on rain gear to splash in puddles. Bat did not like to get wet. He didn't like it at all. It made his clothes feel sticky and itchy and uncomfortable. Mr. Grayson knew that Bat didn't like to get wet, so even though the saw wet school philosophy said that students should go outside rain or shine or snow, he asked Bat, "Would you like to spend recess helping me clean Baby Cake's enclosure?" Yes, said Bat. Mr. Grayson got a trash bag, and Bat scooped the old straw into it. Then they laid out a fresh batch of straw. It smelled like summertime and sunshine. Baby Cakes hopped over to the straw and sniffed it. She looks happy, Mr. Grayson said. She looks exactly the same as she always does, Bat answered. Mr. Grayson laughed. Grown-ups were always laughing at things that Bat didn't think were funny, but it didn't bother Bat very much when Mr. Grayson did it. Julio, a fourth grader, who everyone said was a natural athlete, came into the classroom. Mr. Grayson, he said, Principal Martinez wants to know if you're still going to teach yoga. Sure, Mr. Grayson said. Tell her I'm all ready to start. Then he said, Julio, I think you've grown a foot since the last time I saw you. Julio shrugged. Not that much, he said, but I've grown an inch since winter break. I'm not surprised, Mr. Grayson said. That was 3 months ago. Bat thought about time as he followed Mr. Grayson to the yoga room and as he sat on his mat in the butterfly pose. 3 months, he guessed, could be a little bit of time or a really long time, depending on who you were. For instance, a monarch butterfly born in the summer lives only about 6 weeks, so 4 months would feel like forever. But a monarch butterfly born in the winter might live for 8 months, so 4 months would be half of its life. And if you were a boy with a skunk kit that you were only allowed to keep for 1 month, time was sure to pass much too quickly. Bat considered telling Mr. Grayson about the life cycle of a monarch butterfly, but the teacher was busy unlacing his orange high tops and getting ready to lead the group in yoga. He decided he would talk about monarch butterflies with Mr. Grayson later. Okay, we're on page 62 now. But the right later never happened. After yoga, they went back to the room for reading circle. After reading circle, they worked on their volcano projects, which Bat had not been looking forward to. Groups of 4 kids had to work together to build a volcano. Mr. Grayson called it collaborative art. Bat did not like collaboration. He liked to do things himself. That way, if something didn't turn out the way he wanted it to, there was no one else to be mad at. And if he wanted to take it apart and start over, no one would tell him not to. But Mr. Grayson wouldn't let Bat be a group of 1. The problem was that no one else in the group seemed to care as much as Bat did. Three times before 2:45, when class was finally over for the day, Bat's group said, Mr. Grayson, Bat won't let us help. I don't need help, Bat told Jenny when she complained for a second time. It's a group project, she said. You have to let us help. Israel, who was in Bat's group, kept asking him all kinds of annoying questions like, Hey, Bat, do you think the lava is red enough? And Bat, can you pass me the paste? Bat ignored the lava question, but about the paste, he said, glue works better than paste. The paste gets all weird and flaky when it dries. Okay, said Israel, pass me the glue then. I'm using the glue, Bat said. Things would go much more slowly, Bat thought, if the other kids would stop asking questions and interfering and just let him go on with the job. By the time Miss Kiko rang the end-of-day bell from the hallway, Bat's left eye felt twitchy. All he wanted to do was climb into Mom's car and go home to his own room. But when he walked outside, he didn't see Mom's burgundy station wagon. Instead, he saw Dad's yellow sports car, and he remembered with a heavy sigh that today was an every other Friday, and he wouldn't get to see his own room or the baby kit for 3 long days. If Bat were a mayfly, he wouldn't even live that long. Thanks, readers.
Hello, Somerset Stars. This is Mrs. Brignac, and today I will be reading Chapter 11, titled Apartment 2A. If you're following along, it's on page 65. Hi, Sport, said Dad. Bat didn't like being called Sport because he didn't like playing sports or watching sports. Bat liked being called Bat because he liked playing with animals and reading about animals and watching videos about animals. But Dad didn't like calling him Bat. When he wasn't calling Bat Sport, he always called him Bixby Alexander. It's a great name, he liked to say. It was an okay name. Bat's first name, Bixby, had been his mom's last name before she got married. Now that she and Dad were divorced, she kept Tam instead, because as she said, I gave Bixby to you, and you get to keep it. Bat's middle name, Alexander, was the same as his dad's middle name, and all 4 of them, Dad, Mom, Janie, and Bat were Tams, even though they didn't all live together in one house. The rain had turned into a gentle mist, and Dad had his windshield wipers turned on to their lowest setting. "You know what we need on a chilly day like this?" Dad asked. "What?" Bat replied. "Well, I was thinking that after we pick up your sister, we could all go to Coco's to get some hot chocolate. Do you like that idea?" Coco's was the name of Bat's favorite coffee shop downtown. It was nestled in between a bookstore that also sold stuffed animals and a shoe store. "Okay," said Bat. They drove under a little bridge and through downtown. Because of the rain, fewer bicyclists crowded the streets, and it didn't take Bat's dad very long to get to Janie's school. Bat recognized her right away. She was standing near the corner, wearing her bright yellow rain slicker. Bat admired the way she looked, like a shiny yellow sun. Here's a picture. We're on page 68 now. "Hi, Dad," said Janie. She tossed her backpack into the seat next to Bat and then slid into the front seat, slamming the door. "Hello, my girl. How was your day?" Bat relaxed in the back seat as Janie told Dad about her day. He didn't listen to the words of what she was saying, but he liked the way her voice went up and down like music. Dad's voice was nice too. It was lower than Janie's, and it didn't go up and down very much. It was like a straight line. At Coco's, Bat spilled some of his hot chocolate on his shirt when he took off the lid to add cinnamon. "Be careful, sport," said Dad, which was a dumb thing to say because the hot chocolate was already spilled, and being careful now wouldn't unspill it. Bat couldn't enjoy the taste of his drink at all because the only thing he could think about was the wet, uncomfortable stain on his shirt. Dad's apartment was in a complex that had a pool and a workout room. Kids under 13 weren't allowed to use the workout equipment, which Bat thought was unfair. He really wanted to try the treadmill. The apartment was on the second floor. There was an elevator, but Bat preferred to take the stairs. He liked them because there were 2 sets of 11 stairs, and 11 was his favorite number. One day he would be 11, which felt like an exciting thing to be. At the top of the stairs, they turned right and walked around the corner. Then Dad unlocked the door of apartment 2A, and they all went inside. "Home sweet home," said Dad. It didn't feel like home, and it didn't smell sweet. "It smells like onions in here," Janie said, wrinkling her nose. "That's because the slow cooker made dinner for us," Dad said. "Chili." Bat didn't like chili. Dad knew he didn't like it. Bat didn't like mushy foods except for oatmeal with brown sugar. "I don't like chili," Bat said. "Maybe you'll like it tonight," Dad answered. "I tried a new recipe." Unless the new recipe was for a chili that didn't include any chili, Bat would not like it. Bat sighed and shrugged off his backpack. It was going to be a long weekend. Readers, that is the end of chapter 11. Tune in for chapter 12 with Mrs. Lawson coming up soon. Thanks.